Welcome, my brothers and sisters, to the Wolf's Den Studio. This is Dave, once again from a hole in the ground called the Wolf's Den Studio here in Nevada. I have Carole Michaella with a whole cadre of people, including Bridget Smith, David Chace, Miesha Johnston, Robert Freeman, Zion Zeta, Eric Ghosh, and Lindsay Mann.
Hello, hello.
And gentlemen, the show is yours. You have the soapbox, the spotlights, and the mic.
All right. Thank you so much, David. And very excited with these wonderful, amazing guests and bringing some new ideas, concepts, and startling revelations today to our Desert Mermaid radio show. And yes, I'm the Desert Mermaid. I'm stuck here on the desert, but I love the ocean. I'm a mermaid that's just dying for the ocean, but I'm on my mission here, and so be it. Had an amazing adventure up in Red Rock Canyon, which is my chance to kind of get away and see what reality is, or I should say to get away from what is the matrix and get into what is really reality. And had a lot of downloads and amazing information coming through, and found out that in the future I should be working with Miesha, a very powerful woman, and also a wonderful shaman from the Yucatan, and her name is Saraida, and the three of us are supposed to be doing some amazing, incredible things together with our power that we have as a total of 3 people. So, but the experience was very eye-opening and just made me realize that I'm here for a reason, and I'm on a path, and I'm hoping to encourage all of you light workers out there to really go for it, and let's just bring that divine feminine energy and transform this planet, cool it down from where it's been before. So we have a lot of people here today, and I'm very excited. I want to get started right away. First of all, I'd love to introduce Miesha Johnston. She has a group that has brought together all the contactees from around the world, actually, around the country and around the world. And she can tell you a little bit more about that and how you can meet with her over the internet, what have you. These people have, I think it's a blessing that they found Miesha, because now they can all gather together and discuss what they've been through, and it's very healing to them. And also to know that you're not the only one that, has gone through an experience like they have. So, Miesha, I'd love to introduce you, and we had Miesha on the show not too long ago talking about her experiences, and she's had incredible experiences her entire life, and surviving what she has is just, to me, is mind-boggling, that she is such a beautiful person that has come out of it very positive, and I'm sure these other people too that we'll be meeting very soon are the same way. But Miesha, tell us, can you go through a little bit of your background and just to the people that don't know you, and kind of tell them a kind of a quick review of how you came into being a contactee? Okay.
Oh, okay, sure. Thank you very much for having me on the show, Carole and David. And I'm a multi-generational experiencer. I've had my father, a grandmother have all been experiencers. Have talked, and our family we talked about it kind of pretty openly. And I've had like five different types of beings, including that I've had contact with, including hybrids. And of course, today we're talking about the reptilian experience. So, interestingly enough, there are it's a duality world, right? So it's everywhere, and so you have the positives and you have I'd rather use the word service to self, as in a negative, or service to others, as in a positive groups. And so there's many, many service to self, much, much more than there is service to others, much, much more than there is service to self. So there's many more positive groups there. And the ones we're talking about is the different, and there's several, many, many, many different types of reptilians, and we're going to be talking about those today. But my experience was with a reptilian that started in, actually the very first time I ever saw this being was on board a ship in 1966. And then I wasn't to see him again until 1989. And in between that time, I had some very tumultuous experiences with some not so pleasant beings, which in later life, he actually helped me get rid of that whole problem, that whole situation. But the first contact was with him was he came to my room in a kind of a shadow, but it was glowing energy, and I'd see that a few nights and really not remember what was going on. Then one night I saw more of a silhouette with a cloak, kind of a cloak over the head, and so I saw that. And now each time he came, he would either take me on board a ship, or he'd share information with me. We seemed to work together in at least 2 different lives we had together, which I found out later. But he would show himself gradually. He never just popped in as a reptilian. He gradually showed me himself, and as a silhouette for quite a while. And then one night, after an interesting experience where I had this wonderful energy that just, it was of unconditional love and a kundalini rising, and it was just fabulous. That night I asked him, what do you really look like? Because several times I'd seen him as a beautiful blonde in my head. That's what I thought he was. But I said, that's not who you really are, so will you please show me who you are? And he said, oh, if you are sure that you're ready to see this, are you sure? Are you really ready? And I said, yes, I am. So he showed me, well, actually before that, I asked him also his name, and a name came to me in my head of Iyano. It wasn't not his name, but it was what I can understand. So that was the name that I called him from then on. And I had very, very strong fond feelings for Iyano. But as I was saying, I asked him what he really looked like. And so all of a sudden, the energy changed, and I don't even think it was that same night. I think he came back, and that's when he showed me, but I'm not positively sure about that. But I think the energy just changed that night, so it must have been that night. So our energy changed, and there he was standing, and he had very dark avocado green color skin, and some kind of scales. They didn't really, it wasn't like a alligator scales. It was more soft and velvety, and in fact I did feel them after that many times. He had piercing, kind yellow eyes, and a lovely smile. He was very, what's the word I'm trying to think of? He wasn't really scary at all. And besides that, I'd already felt his unconditional love that came from him before that anyway. So his body structure was very muscular. He was probably 7.5 feet tall, maybe taller. Sometimes he seemed taller than other times, but probably 7.5. On his chest, he kind of had some kind of, and I think it was organic kind of cover on his chest. Now, I don't really think it was a shield or anything, but I really don't know, because in fact he was more of like a soldier, but I guess you'd call him an undercover soldier, maybe, a special forces kind of soldier. He wasn't, so he did do some kind of cloak and dagger stuff and go inside the reptilian bases underground. And in fact, I ended up doing some of those things as well, as kind of in reconnaissance as well. And so we worked together that way for some time until till the time when it became very dangerous, and I was having a lot of negative reptilian experience with a very, very negative service to self group that was working with factions of our Black Ops government. So I had to get out of it, and Iyano, in fact, helped me get away from him and get out of it. And I never had another after that night. And what he did, two of them showed up one night in my room, and at the very moment they did, there he was, and there was some kind of interaction with them. It was all telepathic. They disappeared and have never come back since. So, for a while longer, I had kind of more spiritual contacts with Iyano now, but no more physical contacts with Iyano, not since 2001. So that's kind of it, pretty much. If later, the chat group wants to ask some questions, that would be fine too. So, I would like to give our site that people can go to. In fact, I probably should have already done that. But the Reptilian site that they can go to and see the pictures. It's called Positive Reptilians, and the link it's a Facebook page, and you'll see all kinds of pictures. And David has gone on there for us, and David Chace has gone on there for us and downloaded all these pictures, so anybody can follow along on our experiences with the reptilians pictures. That site is, of course, HTTPS, of course, all of that. Facebook.com/pages/positive-reptilian-contact. And then there's some numbers. I'm going to go ahead and give those to you, but I don't know if that's needed. But -440947659296675. So that kind of takes care of it for me, Carole. I'd like to introduce the other people. Do you have any questions for me before I go on? Hello? Hello?
I can hear you, Miesha. I don't know if Carole is...
I hear her. I don't hear Carole.
Hi, Carole. Are you there?
Okay. Let's check. I'm going to check in the chat room, you guys. This is Erica Getch, and can anybody else hear us in the chat room? If you can hear us, can you give us a little heads up there? We seem to have lost everybody. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if we were even on the air, to tell you the truth.
Right.
Dave, are we there? Dave? Wolf Spirit, Dave?
I can hear.
I can hear.
Oh, goodness. Miesha, what'd you do this time again? You and your... remember the...
I thought it was an absolutely great presentation.
Okay, so all of us can hear each other. Let me...
Well done, Miesha.
Okay, all right. So it looks like somebody is in there, and they can hear us. Okay, so I'm going to introduce myself and just let everybody understand. Oh, no, I mean, I'm not going to tell my story, but I just want to say that this is Erica Getch, and that if you guys can get a hold of Dave or Carol. Please try to. Yeah, we're still on the air, and Miesha, why don't you just continue going? I say the show never stops.
Okay, all right. Well, here we go. This seems to happen every time I get on a radio show. I don't know what that is all about. But usually I lose the connection, so this time it's just our host, unfortunately. So I will go ahead and interview our next presenter, and that is David Chace. He's a fabulous, wonderful artist, and I'm going to let him share what he does for our group and how tremendously helpful he is.
Thank you. I'm David Chace. I was born in the 1970s, and I've always loved reptiles. In kindergarten, I got interested in dinosaurs. And then in grade school, I started catching lizards and snakes. And then towards my high school years, I kept with the lizards and the snakes, but I also started getting interested in UFOs. And especially in '87 when Communion and Intruders came out. And then in the early 90s, I went to a UFO, monthly meetings of a group called UFO Contact Center International. And there I started meeting experiencers. And I used my artistic ability to draw the different types of beings that they had seen. And I was especially interested in the reptilian beings, which, I was really excited that there was something that could combine my interest in both UFOs as well as reptiles and reptilian aliens or whatever they are. And I guess we have to address the question, what is a reptilian? And my basic take on it is a reptilian is it's an alien or a UFO occupant, or possibly a cryptid, which is like an unrecognized creature. And it has, in general, they have a humanoid body plan and a reptilian appearance. Sometimes they're also called reptoids, which was the term used by coined by John Rhodes, who's another reptoid researcher. The reptilians, what is a reptilian appearance? It means they have physical features that are similar to a reptile. They might have scales. They have often claws. Sometimes, the colors are like khaki or green or brown or sometimes gray or yellowish, but tend to be kind of colors you associate with lizards. And they're different varieties that vary in height from 5.5 to 8 feet, and there's even lots of different varieties of reptilians. The reptilians the experiences with reptilians, obviously there are the physical experiences, which is they can leave marks on your body, so it's obviously physical. People see them on board UFOs. People also see them in their homes. So it is part of the physical phenomenon of UFOs seen in the skies. They're not the most common because most people who have a UFO experience, for instance, in Bud Hopkins' research, he found about 75% roughly would see some form of grays, and the reptilians were just a small subcategory of the remaining 25%. But I've met a few dozen people now who have seen reptilians. The experiences, so they are physical, and they can show up physically, but at the same time, they also can communicate to us telepathically. Some of the people I met back in the 90s had been meditating. When they would get a telepathic message, they might hear the reptilian announce its name for them in their head. Often the reptilians seem to have names. For instance, one of the first cases, a woman was meditating and she heard the name Kraton in her mind. Another case, the woman was meditating and she suddenly had this strong impression of gecko eyes staring at her, and she heard the name Zetar. So the names are, they do use names, at least for the benefit of communication with humans. So those are like a psychic, telepathic, third eye kind of experience, like a psychic vision. People, they also do have astral experiences or out-of-body experiences where they're taken up aboard a craft, but in an out-of-body state. And there are various ways you can tell when you're out of body versus when it's a physical experience. Sometimes the memories get confused, though, and it's hard to know after the fact. So, science, in mainstream science, we have terminology that is really well defined. We have like kilogram. We know, everyone knows what a kilogram is. It has a strict definition. When it comes to paranormal experiences and psychic experience and UFO experiences, the terms, we have to use them a little bit more loosely, because basically all we have is people describing experiences as best they can, using whatever language that they can come up with, and hopefully they can get the description across.
Hi, David. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just wanted to ask you. I got off for some reason. I fell off of this little platform for a second. But when was your last, experience with the reptilians?
Well, I am, as far as I know, no conscious memories. I'm not an experiencer, so I'm a researcher of the reptilians. I consider myself a starseed, though, because I've always had this powerful emotional draw, this affinity for the subject. At some level, I feel it's my mission, and that I've always, felt that. For instance, in the early 90s, I was watching the show Encounters, and there was an artist named Bill McDonald, and they presented many of his drawings that he had done. And he had worked with several experiencers, including Miesha, and done drawings of the beings they'd seen. And when I saw those drawings, I was overwhelmed by just the sense of connection and familiarity with the beings, and it was just awesome. So I do feel I'm a starseed in that regard, but not an experiencer. At least I don't have any conscious recall of things that I can definitely say are a UFO experience or a reptilian experience.
Right. And how long have you been on this journey of just research and what have you?
Basically, I was reading it starting in the mid-'80s, basically 87. I started reading a lot about alien encounters through Bud Hopkins' research and Whitley Strieber's books. But then it wasn't until around 91 when the show Sightings first aired. And right. That's when I found out about, you mean people are actually describing reptilian beings, and since I was already interested in reptilians and in UFOs, that's, when I really got into it and started just doing a whole lot of drawings, and then I started attending the UFO groups. And I've worked with, dozens, well over 100 people who've seen different types of aliens. Of course, my favorite are the reptilians.
So you do drawings then, right?
That's right.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And do a lot of people come to you to try to explain what they've seen and give you information? Yeah.
So basically what I do is I ask clarifying questions. I ask people to describe, well, what did it look like? Can you describe, what did the chest look like? What did the arms look like? What did the eyes look like? And certainly I've found like 3 different kinds of chest, basically, that some have a wide horizontal scales, like the scales on a snake's belly. Some just have like regular scales, like they have on the rest of the body, like a normal small scales. And some have some kind of body armor, practically, almost like a turtle shell or some kind of breastplate that seems to be a natural part of the body.
Interesting. Very interesting.
And definitely lots of different variations. When I first got into this, I thought, well, I'll say, there's one species of reptilian, but no, then I found, even though certain physical features come up over and over again, which suggests either convergent evolution or genetic engineering, maybe hybridization, that they're sharing genes with other reptilian groups or something. But at the same time, there are lots of variations in terms of the actual configuration of those features. For instance, some have 4 fingers on the hand. They'll have a thumb plus 3 fingers, but it's also common to find them with 5 fingers, just like a human hand. Of course, with claws, and they'll often have webbing between the fingers.
Interesting. Wow. Well, we're going to come back to you, definitely. I'd like to ask Erica if she's an experiencer herself, and if so, when was her first experience with reptilians or ETs? Erica, you there?
Yeah. Hi, Carole. Thanks for having me on. Yes, I am an experiencer, and basically, the correlation between exactly when I've, as a child, about 5 years old, I had visitations from the short grays, but I never really, put 2 and 2 together, and it was frankly 25 years later that I recalled an event that how could I forget, but it was in a multiple witness sighting from across the town, involving my father, the city mayor, prominent, credible people, my sister. Everybody saw this craft, but what was happening, to make it extremely brief, is that I was joyriding with my friends, and basically everything, the car stalled, and it had the classic, things that everything went down, and we found ourselves in close proximity, under 500 feet away from a craft that was hovering. And I won't go into the details of the craft because since the show is about the interaction between the beings, but basically, I remember I have flashes of, and also this is all real time, and real time event. I was standing outside the car 10 hours later. The sun was going down at this time. It was still where you could see. And then during the time when I was standing outside of the car then with my friends, the sun was just coming up the next day, and we watched it do a brilliant maneuver. And I've talked an hour before on explaining so I'm really I'm cutting it short, but watched it dart away, but and then there was the confirmation, like I said, with everybody discussing it later. Not what happened, though. So I went to, I remember seeing stars and a whole bunch of, I'll bypass that. But what happened was I went to a hypnosis regression 25 years later, which just only a few years ago for me now. Right. And I just wanted to find out who was with me, and just barely. I really wasn't thinking anything. Well, anyways, I ended up discovering that I met a blue being. I did meet both, short grays were the intake workers, as I call them, and then there was a flash of a holographic, very, very tall gray, at least probably 12 feet tall, in proximity to the 7 feet. And that's an approximate. I was laying down at the time, seeing and everything. A 7 feet tall blue being, and it is also on the Facebook page, the Positive Reptilian site. And I made that page, and I wasn't sure how it was going to be received when I made that Facebook page. But it's been really, really, there's a lot more experiencers out there, and people say about time, and thank God, that we can all band together now. So I'm really glad about this. But the being, it kind of does have a humanoid in a sense, probably a little bit of a look to it. But for the most part, it was 7 foot tall. There was 2 of them. This one was a male that I'm just describing as the main character, if you want to call it. But they all, had a glossiness to their body. It was kind of an electric blue that you sort of wash up a little bit as a little bit lighter, some of it. And, there was no prominent scales. I always thought scales on a reptilian or something might be, more like Miesha said, alligator or even a fish scale, I guess. Yeah. But there was a texture under the skin. It was texturized as though there was texture, but then you add an oil shine to it. So it kind of has a smooth appearance, yet it's textured. And there was a prominent bump on the forehead. and the eyes were they were like glass. They didn't have a color that I noticed, but you could see the pupils were elongated, and so that's where I say reptilian, because it does classify, and I think closely in that. And the teeth was sharp, but everything was kind of, I don't know, the hands, I didn't get a good, I think there was just 5, fingers. I mean, there wasn't anything that I was focusing on, because at the time, I mean, it was, but what I really want to bring up, and I want to mention, and I'm glad to be on the show. I'm talking fast because I'm such a talker, but I want to mention, if anybody's interested in my experience, the full details of it, I have my own personal drawings as well as the one that David Chace did for me, and he did an excellent job, you guys. You can go to ericagetsch.com, ERICAGOETSCH. Erica Getsch, excuse me, can't even say my name. ericagetsch.com, and you can see all of the audio of me telling it, just everything for more description. But the thing that's fascinating is that when I was they were fixing me, and in hypnosis I say this, and it's kind of shocking to me because I didn't know that I was even broken. You know what I mean? That there was anything to fix, but they were helping me in some way at the time, and I got an impression to it. It's like they don't speak, but you just know it, and so the impression was that I am supposed to, and if you want to call it a mission, it sounds like a strange word as well, but it is the truth. It's a mission of sorts that I'm supposed to tell the world about their love. That we actually have to get rid of fear, and this is nothing like groundbreaking to hear, but humans have to get rid of the fear to be able to experience their love. Right. And the love of everything. And that, it seems so, easy to understand, but it's not one of the hardest things ever. And, that's where my positive experience, really began, and discovery. And I do have a hybrid child that, looks similar, except a more of a Caucasian skin tone, but pretty close to being everything else. So how many,
Oh, I just wanted to ask you, how many experiences do you think you had after that one?
I only had a couple of more of an astral kind, but I had a lot of missing time in the past, and where my husband says, I went to the store and I literally lost a couple hours. And I mean, Walmart isn't that exciting, you guys. You know what I mean? It's really not. So, it's an uncomfortable feeling to lose time, and I just can't say what it was, but I got what I guess was a download or upload. I don't even know about that. I got something where I have an equation that I'm supposed to figure out, and this is, again on ericagetsch.com, but I've been working with them. It sounds crazy to say, but I've been working with the beings, my whole life. They're teaching me things. I have an equation, a complex layered equation that I'm supposed to find a male being, whether it's, ET or human, I don't know. But this is impressed upon me, and that it's supposed to either have a portion of it or it's supposed to help me with whatever I have. And it's kind of a cruel joke, because I really need to know what that is, because, it could potentially be helpful, to the, and I don't have a clue. So,
were you terrified that first time, or did you feel that they had sent you a feeling of comfort or something that would get you through that experience, that first one?
I was terrified. I was argumentative at first when the Greys wanted me to lay down. I didn't understand when they disappeared that when it was like Jurassic Park. I always say this, that when the Tyrannosaurus Rex starts coming into the park and you see that water and the glass and it just ripples and there's just all this unknown fear, and that's how I felt. I knew something was coming. I could smell them, I could sense them. But I didn't know what it was. And then when I saw the blue beings, I still didn't, it's like you suffer a little bit of amnesia when you're up in the ship. And you have to remember. But when they touched my forehead, I calmed down and I started to understand. You take that fear away. It's kind of funny now. and then you realize about their love, because the fear is the human, we're trying to survive, and we don't think it's correct what's happening. But if we can just put that fear away, then we can start really getting down to the meat and potatoes of why we're even interacting, and that their family is what they are.
Exactly. So you feel that we're probably, part from the reptilians, genetically designed with some of their DNA or whatever?
Absolutely, and I think that we have an important role, and there are, I know that there's my lab or, mill lab stuff, and there's all sorts of interactions that people say the Dracos usually are the bad guys and this and that. And I'm not saying that there aren't negative reptilians. As Miesha said, there are many kinds. So, honestly, this is just my experience, and take it for what it's worth. But I think we have an important role to play in the galaxy, and so there's a message there, and I'm sort of trying to uncover it, at least for my own little puzzle piece.
Well, anybody that thinks they might have that extra puzzle piece should definitely check out your... Is it on Facebook?
I really, I would love, this is just something it's not an ego-based thing. It's just, it's important, because it's like, why would I ever say that? Honestly, I really suck at math. So for me to say the word equation, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't have any kind of physical, I don't understand any of that. So I don't know.
Well, I love that story. It's amazing. And I think that maybe more people really have positive experiences, but because of their fear, it looks like it's a negative experience also. Do you think that's possible?
Yeah, that's the thing. A lot of people say, well, they're making you feel this way, that, they're touching you and giving you a false sense of euphoria, with endocrine, hormones or whatever it is they put. And I can't say that that's true or false. I don't know the answer to that. All I know is what I felt, and my experience is deep down in my core of understanding. It was actually the other part of what I say is the way I felt is like a mother to a child. That's the way I felt when they were taking care of me. Now, it's so contrary to what a lot of people, hear about reptilians. But if you look at the site, and all of us here on the panel today, we're all we're witnesses to a much deeper understanding. There's a lot more going on than, I think maybe somebody in the media type, image is giving it a bad name, because if we do understand who we are in this role and the reptilian, maybe we will understand more of our power, and maybe that's what the elite or something might want to keep from us. It's just speculation, but,
Yeah, that's very true. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Miesha.
Good. I had a question for Erica. I wanted to ask a few questions here and there, but I was off for a while, I think.
Miesha, can we go? I would just, if possible, I would just like to go through each person's experiences. We have 4 more people, and then
yes, that's what I was planning on doing. I was going to introduce everybody.
Okay, because that way we can come back and start asking the questions.
Right. Okay, so then I wanted to ask and introduce Lindsay, and she'll be sharing her experience with you. Before I do, could I go ahead? I forgot to give my website.
Yes, please do.
Okay, it's SRARMIE. Sorry about that.
You better say that one again. Start over.
That's, of course, HTTP, but it's SRARMIESHA99.blog.com.
Okay.
And so now we'll have Lindsay.
Maybe you can post it on the chat board too.
I did.
Okay, great. So we're going to be speaking with Lindsay Mian. Am I saying that correct? Mian? Lindsay, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Can you turn up a little bit louder, if possible?
Let me see.
I mean, I don't know, maybe other people can hear you, but it's a little low on my end over here.
It's about as loud as it's going to get, I think.
Okay, then just speak in, close to wherever the mic would be on your computer.
Okay, I'll speak closer to the mic.
Okay. So tell us how you started.
I've had experiences throughout my life, and when I was younger, I really didn't think much of it, and I kind of brushed those experiences off, and it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I had this one experience that I kind of considered, and I consider it to be like my awakening, and everything just kind of fell into place after that, like all the experiences I had when I was younger, and it all just kind of made sense. And this experience I had was one morning I was sleeping. I call it like a dream, but it didn't feel like a dream at all. It almost felt like an out-of-body experience, I guess you would call it, or something like astral. And I was sleeping, and then next thing I know, I'm being escorted by 2 reptilian beings, one on each side of me, and they're taking me to a round room. And it was a pretty large round room that had like a lot of metallic objects in it, and in the center of the room, there was this metallic type chair. And while they were escorting me, I felt extremely calm. I didn't feel scared at that point. And throughout the experience, I didn't feel scared at all. But they brought me up to this reptilian being, and he had to have been about 7 feet tall, and his skin was brown with a little bit of green in it. And the best I can describe his skin was sort of like tree bark, and it looked really rough. Not really bumpy, but just really rough and kind of groovy looking. And,
it looked like, Lindsay, what did you say it looked like, the skin?
It looked like tree bark.
Oh, tree bark, okay.
Yeah, it was like groovy, and it looked rough. And
okay.
At that point, he was focused on this, I will call it like a console. It was metallic looking, and I could see him. He was like pressing, not buttons, but like I guess you would call it like a touch screen. He was pressing something, and I spoke first. I'm like, who are you? Where are you from? Why am I here? I just remember asking him lots of questions, like what's going on, and he ignored me at first, and it felt like forever before he looked up to me and he acknowledged me, and that's when I noticed his eyes, and he had these gorgeous eyes. They were like a yellow orangish color, and he had a vertical pupil, and after that he told me that I was there because I was special and that I was needed, and that I was there for a reason and a purpose. And I remember him at that point, he had backed up a little from me, and I got a better look at him, and he had this cape over his shoulder that came down to about his waist, and that was also brown in color. It was almost the same color as his skin, and I remember this cape, it was kind of pinned together in the middle, in the front and the middle, by this symbol that looked like a triangle, and he then proceeded to sit down in this chair that was in the middle of the room, and there was other beings in there too, and from what I remember, they were all reptilian. And so at that point, I remember asking him a question, but I don't remember exactly what, but he laughed. His voice was kind of deep. I wouldn't say raspy, but it was a very deep voice. He laughed, and then he said that I sounded very innocent, and like I didn't know what was really going on. And after that, he proceeded to get up, and then he came close to me, and he stood in front of me. He had to have been about 7 feet tall, and he grabbed my wrist, and my wrist was so tiny compared to his hands. I remember his hands being very, very big, and he had 5 fingers, and these, I'd say his fingernails, they were more like talons, and they were black. And I remember the palm of his hand opening up as he grabbed my wrist, and seeing this webbing in between his fingers. And the color of the palm of his hand was like yellowish, and it was almost bumpy, almost like a snake. And he then proceeded to pull my arm up, and he put it, his mouth opened slightly, and I just remember getting the feeling that, thinking he was gonna bite me, but I knew deep down he wasn't gonna do it. And I just told him, if you're gonna bite me, just do it already. And that's when he let go of my wrist, and he came down to my face. He bent down, and our eyes connected, and I just felt this overwhelming feeling of love and unconditional love. And that's when he proceeded to tell me telepathically in my mind. It's kind of hard to explain the whole telepathically thing and the feelings that you get in your head and that they send to you, but it was just an overwhelming feeling of love. And he told me that we had other lives together, and I just got this very strong, overwhelming feeling of him being a soulmate sort of feel. And
wow.
That after he had, told me that, he stood up, and he told, because the other 2 reptilians that had escorted me, they were still there, but they were behind me still, and he told them, take her back now. And after that, that's when it ended, and that's when I woke up.
Wow, that's so fascinating. That's like Miesha has her soulmate is a reptilian also. So you 2 have that in common, it seems.
Yeah,
pretty amazing.
It seems that a lot of us have a lot in common when it comes to that, and in the feelings that they have sent us of the unconditional love, and this just overwhelming. I think I always, think to myself, I'd be lucky to find a human here on Earth that would love me half as much as this reptilian being did.
Right. Well, that's
exactly right. Yes,
yeah.
It kind of spoil you for the humans.
Well, I don't know if I'm a reptilian. I don't think I am, but I do know that I have someone on the other side, and I have always had trouble finding any human that would make me feel that they are of the same vibration. And I can't explain it, but I think that I can relate to what you just said, Lindsay, and of course Miesha too, because Miesha has told me that same thing also. Lindsay, how many experiences do you think you had, or have had just that one, or?
I've had another experience with him, actually 2 other experiences with him, and then I've had other experiences with Grays, and other things, like in my childhood, my sister remember waking up one night to this shadowy hooded figure and standing in front of my bed, and stuff like that. That's kind of gone throughout my life, and I've had missing time, several episodes of missing time, missing 2 or 3 hours, and
yeah. Well, that is so amazing, and Miesha and I are going to want to come back and ask questions from the whole panel. I just want to make sure each person gets to tell their story first, if you don't mind, Miesha.
Yeah, Miesha, sounds great. We have Bridget Smith is our next interview.
Hi, I'm right here. Hi, Carole.
Hi, Bridget. I love your photo up there.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. That was actually done by Christine Dennett.
Is that supposed to be someone you met?
That's the being that I encountered. Also on the Positive Reptilian site are some artist renditions by David Chace, which are very accurate, especially the body size and as well as the images and I guess you would call them the beading or the ridges on the face. So hers was done. We did that. She did it as she felt her psychic impression of him. And then David's was done by my descriptions. I'm not a very good artist, but he is, and he did a wonderful job. So you can find those there as well, too.
That's awesome. Please tell us your story, about what you encountered.
Okay. All right. Well, I do want to preface something that Erica had said and also that everybody has mentioned. When you are, or at least from what I have found for people who are reptilian experiencers, male or female, it's not something that you just wake up and go tell the whole world. My experiences started in 89, all the way through 92. Of course, those first experiences were with other beings, as Lindsay was talking about. But to preface it, I didn't have any idea what I was seeing. Back in 89 and 90, there was no paranormal TV shows really. Maybe there were some UFO stories that would come on once in a while, but we didn't have the internet that you could just plug in, Lizard Man or whatever, and there was no internet back then. So it was highly confusing at the time. But there's one thing that I have to say. When I did finally begin my search again 6 years after it ended, around 1997, 1998, there was various books and information on the internet and some more public information about this being, yet every single thing that was out there said that this was a reptilian. Of course, I called him a lizard man back then. That was my frame of reference. They didn't have a name as far as I knew. But everything that I read said that they were going to kill me, eat me, clone me, or that I had been raped, and that any experience that I had was a false experience of an implanted memory. But I knew in my gut and I knew in my soul that this was not what I experienced. Now, 70% of what I have experienced is conscious recall. Feel, touch, conversation, the whole thing. So for me, it was very confusing to be reading all this negative publicity, these books, and I just knew it wasn't the essence of what I experienced or encountered. When you're talking about reading things that are so negative, but remembering this unconditional loving acceptance that you haven't felt from a human being ever, not even your parents, not even your direct family. It created a lot of confusion for me. So I kept it inside for a long time. And then when I did, I said, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to start sharing some of my experiences. And what I got back was, oh, this is New World Order domination, and these are demons, and, basically even that what I experienced was a shapeshifter, and that there's a culture out there, and they're going to control the world, and they're controlling you, and you're a part of some evil plot. So when you're hearing that constantly, and then people ask me today, how did you keep silent for so long? Well, who is going to come out and say, okay, yeah, I'm a part of this evil group of people and I'm working with these evil beings, but it just was not what I experienced. So as Erica was saying before, I kind of had to preface before I kind of went into my experiences, if that's okay. But yes. I can go right into it and tell you that at the time that he encountered my reptilian, I had to refer to him as Captain because his name was so incredibly long that I could not pronounce it. And I said to him, look, that is just, like Erica was saying, she's not gifted in math. Well, I'm not gifted in seeing all different letters kind of stuck together that looked a mile long. So I said, do you mind if I just call you Captain? And he laughingly agreed that was okay. He totally understood that it actually hurt to read his name. I mean, because we were speaking telepathically, it hurt. Yes?
No, I was just amazed at What would it be, like a long Russian name or something, or
kind of, sort of, but really not. You know, it took me years. I had parts of the name, and then as I focused on it, I came up with Quansecutek, and that's not the whole thing. There's still, some consonants in there that are strictly consonants, and then an ending that almost sounds like a song. I mean, it's almost like a lyric. So it was too much. So that's when that's when I affectionately called him Captain, and he affectionately enjoyed that. Actually, he laughed, and reptilians do laugh, and they have a sense of humor. But as I said, I couldn't find any information on this being, but before that time, before he entered, I want to say about a year, I had attempted to reach out to the UFO community about experiences that I was having with what are now called grays, that in my frame of reference back in 89 and 90, I called them the Mad Hornets, and I was horrified. I was in so much fear. I couldn't stop the experiences. I felt they were very intrusive. And then I had just floating, what I would call at the time, I just called them floating balls of light. They were an electric blue, sometimes a neon blue, probably about 6 inches in diameter, or sometimes even a foot. They would just, go across the room like they lived there, as well as little tiny white lights that would kind of zip around. So there was some paranormal experiences going on, and I was just thinking, I'm losing my mind, and that's okay. Maybe there's ghosts or spirits. But anyway, after realizing that he was a reptilian,
Bridget.
Yes.
May I ask you to hold that thought? It is time for a break for everybody.
Oh, you got it.
That way I by the way, found all the Nightwish songs.
Awesome. That'd be great.
For about 4.5 minutes, folks. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Thank you for listening to Wolf Spirit Radio. We are a dedicated group of individuals bringing unique programs, ideas, concepts to our shows. We invite you all to explore the programming and shows here on Wolf Spirit Radio, Sunday through Saturday, 7 days a week. You'll find inspiration, information, and entertainment. And join the chat rooms too. Connect with other listeners as well as the host right here on WolfSpiritRadio.com.
Hi. Okay, back to what I was saying. Well, let's see. Like I was saying, that going back to Captain, I was saying his name, and it was extremely difficult for me to pronounce. And actually, I learned his name kind of in the middle of my experiences, which if I count now in my head would be about 9. So basically, this part of my life started what I would call the Screaming Alien Festival kind of thing. But Captain, and that's what I'm going to call him, much easier to say, he kind of came to the rescue, and he took away all of the negative aspects that were going on in my life with other beings. And basically one night, how it started, I woke up and there was this blue electric mist all over the floor. And I looked out my window and I saw a light, and it was about 4 feet in diameter, and I thought it was a craft or something, and that they were coming back to harass me, and I decided, that's it, I'm not going to be afraid anymore. And I was calm, and I was filled with fear. So I followed this little blue, misty, electric blue light that I had never seen before, so it was really kind of hard to discover or explain the color at that time. But I noticed that this round thing was hovering over my garden, and I thought, oh, they're not going to do this. They're not going to radiate my garden. That's where I get my food. So determined, and at that time I thought, I'm going to use the Bible. I'm going to go after them with a rosary. And when I turned the corner, and I passed the light, there was my speakers, okay? I don't think I have a thing that turns down speakers. Hold on. Yes, I do. All right. Is this better?
Yes, and I got to call Carole back. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, basically, I was just following this light. I was determined. And when I turned the corner, I saw the light, and there was a creature about 7 to 7.5 feet tall, in my frame of reference, and I noticed he had blackish brown skin, and I couldn't really see him. As Miesha said to me, he had a humanoid figure, but he looked like an NFL player. I mean, he had no neck. His muscles were just connected with these huge cords all the way to his shoulders. Later I was to find that his eyes, when he did show himself to me, were a yellowish orange with a vertical slit. He had a beading that was snake-like skin, almost, I used to call them like coffee beans all put together, but it was snake-like skin, and I was screaming and yelling, "Get off my property, who do you think you are? I want all of this to end, you need to go away." And immediately the energy changed, and he spoke to my head, and I thought, he's talking to me telepathically, and I'm screaming at him verbally. So right then things changed, and we were speaking telepathically. He let me scream and scream, and what he was actually doing was he had a device in his hand, which it was about an 8-inch window pane of glass with moving colors, and he could use his hands or talons, these long black talons, to maneuver pictures and images. Now, in my frame of reference, what do you call that? You don't call it anything but something really amazing. So he turned the object to me, and I was like, wow, I'd never seen where you could touch something and move pictures around. So today we call that an iPad. The only difference with what he had was that there was no backing. No backing at all. It was just clear. So as the years have gone through, and I've seen cell phones, and then we see laptops, and the colors start to look familiar, and now that we have tablets, it just always brings it back to me. I used to look at the top of a laptop and think if I could rip a laptop off and make it a little bit smaller and let the pictures move with my touch, I would have exactly what he had. So that distracted me, and he just said, "I'm a scientist, and I'm here to collect data." And he just started showing me the data on this, I guess you would call it a tablet. I noticed that his vertebrae were very large, and they bulged out almost like the size of a coffee mug, which one time, well, several times I touched him, but one time I remember touching his back and telling him, your vertebrae are so large in some areas, they reminded me of coffee mugs sticking out, because his spine, when he would walk to bend over, would almost protrude in certain areas. So he would basically say that it's very interesting and understandable.
Carole, turn your speakers down, please.
Okay, how's that?
Go ahead, Bridget.
Okay. And he was very task-oriented in the beginning. He was interested in me very much, but more so in, like, he was on a task. And he was just interested in me. I don't recall a tale. I just remembered this NFL football player, and I would kind of walk around with him as he walked around my house and continually to ask questions, and he would not answer them. And I think that was the most frustrating thing in the beginning, was not getting any answers and continually to be inquisitive. Later, like I said, when he was telling me his name, that was more of a personal experience, one-on-one, where he was actually facing me. And I had many experiences with him. I think my most favorite, or there were several, where he was standing in front of me, and I had no fear, even the first time that I approached him. All I got was a sense of overwhelming, unconditional love and a reciprocation from him of a love I hadn't felt before. So when I would kind of look into his eyes, I would notice the slit, and that wouldn't scare me. And I would start studying him closer, and he asked me, he said, "Do you want to touch me?" And I said, "Oh, yeah." And he was very delighted at that. And I realized that his skin, like I said, had the coffee beans, but when you touched him, it was very smooth, like snake skin. And then my eyes shifted to his shoulders, and I took my hands and I moved towards him, and I started down his arm, and he turned his arm in, and he sent me this loving feeling of how pleased he was that I was accepting him, that I was saying the things that I was. And he was delighted and kept saying, "I'm so glad that you see me." And then I got to his elbow, and I noticed as I grazed over his hand that he had very, very long fingernails, and he turned it towards me so that the opposite side of his skin was exposed. and at that point, I just kind of thought that his scales should have been dimensional, but they were soft to the touch, and I expected to feel a lot of small bumps. And the inner side was kind of like a snake and a frog and kind of moist. And he wanted me to continue, and I went down to his hip area and then down to his feet. But I have to go back and say that his hand, with these long talons that were so sharp, also had webbing in between them. And immediately I held up my hand and said, how in the world do you get anything done with these sharp talons and this intricate webbing, like this translucent webbing? And silly me, I start moving my hand and flailing it back and forth to say, look, you could cut yourself. And he gave out this huge belly laugh. That he just thought that was the most hysterical thing he had heard. And so then I started laughing. And so that was kind of the relationship that we had. I would talk and he would laugh, which I don't know is all that great all the time, but it was pretty great at the time. And he had these four sharp talons, and then also his feet, when I was going back to his feet, I remember that his feet had these notches in them, but he kind of opened up his toes, and I can see that those were webbed as well. And he would just chuckle because I kept asking him, how do you get around without getting hurt? These are very complicated features. And it was all just wonderful and beautiful. Now, I have to also say that I don't recall, because this is something that seems to be all over the internet with people. I personally don't recall a sexual encounter with him in those days. It was more like I would be in an experience with him and I would remember, but there would be an in-between time that I do not recall. And then I would call the end of the experience. So there's an in-between missing time. And the love exchange reminded me years later, of the movie Cocoon, when they sit in that pool and they share that love, if that makes any sense. And it was just all telepathic, and I have never been able to forget that feeling. And like I said, there were lots of other experiences. I was missing time. I was brought aboard a craft, and that was the time getting close to where we said goodbye. I was on board a craft. I was shown children. I yelled at little gray beings. They were trying to give me a shot so that I would forget, and I didn't want to forget. And then he showed me these children, and after that, I think the next experience would have been several experiences and conversations, and then the last one, he opened up what I know to be now at that same circle of light in my kitchen and told me that he had to leave. And I protested and I cried, and I didn't want him to go. I sobbed. And I never forget that. I will never forget that. But what he said to me was that he was leaving, he had a mission to complete, and that he was needed badly and had to go, and tried to comfort me, tried to tell me not to cry, and that he was coming back. He said it may be 5, 10, 15, or 20 years, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be old and probably already have had kids, and you won't know where I am, that kind of thing. But he just basically said, you have a mission. And he stepped 1 foot back into this light, which now is described as a portal, and the portal collapsed into a teeny, tiny, small ball, little bit of light, and just poof, disappeared. And that was basically it. Now, since then, I can say that I have had some encounters with him, but it's been dreamlike states, or maybe hemagognic states, if I'm saying that right. So that's basically it. And there was a lot of stuff in between, but I want to keep it short, because we had other people that had their experiences, but mine was extremely positive, and I hope that this will bring other people out to talk about the fact that not all beings are the same way. They're not all negative. Any being. There's good and bad in both, just like the human race. Am I still here?
I'm back up now. It's been a while, but
okay.
I don't know what happened. But I got to hear some of your amazing stories.
Let me put it this way: the Alphabet Boys are having a little bit of fun with us today, but we know you're there, Alphabet Boys.
Yeah.
We want you to know that we send you our love and blessings, and listen, you might learn something for a change. That's called the truth.
Right.
Well, I hope you got the story, Carole, or if not, you can listen to parts of it later. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be asked, but we want to get to Robert. Mm-hmm. And Zion Zeta. Robert.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. It's going to be Zion. It's going to be Zion first. Zion Zeta first.
Zion first?
Yes.
Okay. Zion, are you there?
Yes. Hello, Carole.
Hello. Hi, Zion. Where are you from?
Yeah. Puerto Rico, but I live right now on the United States.
It's hard to hear you. Zion, it's hard to hear you. You might have to...
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
Can you... Where you're from?
I am from Puerto Rico, but I am living right now in the United States.
In and out.
Can you hear me?
Turn your speakers down a little bit.
Right then.
Turn your speakers down, Zion, and sit a little closer to the mic.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
That's good. So as long as your mic and turn your speakers down, I think we can hear you. So can you give us your story about the reptilians?
Sure. Well, I awakened as a starseed in 2010.
Miesha?
And I knew about my star fantasy. I don't recall physical encounters with any ETs that I'm aware of at the moment. I started drawing out of the blue beings that I could see in random places like the towel, carpets, even the walls. And then in December, I drew this particular reptilian wearing a black uniform, but I thought that it was just out of my imagination. However, in April 2012, I had an astral experience where I was astrally taken to a spacecraft. And I was in this room, and I saw a man on a table, and he was very ill, and there were 3 months ago.
I called the wrong line for Carole.
Huh?
I called the wrong line for Carole.
Go on, Zion. We're still hearing you. No problem. Go on.
Oh, okay. I saw this elder man, and then these 4 beings invited me to heal him, but I refused because I am not a healer. I don't do miracles or anything. I'm not a doctor. But they still insisted and motivated me and cheered me up. Oh, come on, you can have faith in you. So I got close to this man.
We're hearing ringing. We're hearing ringing.
That's Carole's cell phone I'm calling.
Oh, okay. Keep going, Zion. We can hear you, dear.
Okay, I placed my hand, closed my eyes. I was doing everything intuitively because I didn't get any kind of...
Thank you for calling Carole. Please leave your name and message after the tone.
I didn't get any instructions, so I just did it all by myself, and I felt how my hands were healing him. They got very warm, and I could see white light coming out of them. Even though I had my eyes closed, I could still see a light. And at the same time, I could see the 7 colors of the chakras. And when I felt that I was done, I opened my eyes, and then they all clapped and congratulated me for what I did. And then I stared at this reptilian that I drew in a military-looking uniform. But his skin, instead of being green, like I had in mind, it was white instead. And his eyes were also white, but he had black slit pupils. When I asked him who were they, because I wanted to remember them after waking up, as I typed everything down, I wanted to remember the name of their crew. He just simply told me oh, we are just a group of friends, which I glared at him because I didn't believe him. And then he took a deep breath, looking right into my eyes, and then he proceeded to tell me, I am your star father. And right in that moment, the shock was so big because I really didn't like the Draconians back then, and he was clearly one of them. The shock was so big that I just stepped back from him, and then I felt how my astral body wanted to return to my physical body, but somehow I remain on the spacecraft. He noticed that I was trying to return back, so he took me to another part of the spacecraft, and then he pushed me into a capsule, and then he teleported me back to my physical body, and that's when I woke up. At the same time that he was telling me that he was my star father, my family were having also an argument, and both things were trying to bring me back. So I could hear everything that was going on in my home, even though the door of my bed was closed. And the shock of being revealed, oh, you know, I haven't seen father. Well, both things were kind of disturbing for me. But that was basically my experience in a nutshell. Do you have any questions?
Well, I guess Carole is still off. So, well, I don't think so. We should have some more questions a little later. I hope we can. So I guess we'll go ahead and move on to Robert. Thank you so much, Zion.
You're welcome.
Hi, Robert.
Hi, Miesha. How are you?
I'm good. Can you tell us about your experiences?
Yeah, well, my story is pretty brief, really, because I'm a bit of a new kid on the block as far as the reptilians are concerned. Although, like David...
Robert, are you talking right now?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Can.
Okay. Like David, I remember being when I was a small boy, I remember the How and Why Wonder Book of Dinosaurs, and I was quite interested in them, and I remember being impressed by their huge size, and I was always more interested in the placid types like the Brontosaurus and the Diplodocus and those swamp type creatures, and not so much the Tyrannosaurus Rex, etc., but my kind of awakening occurred in the mid to late 1990s, but right up until my first regression, which I've had two regressions, one in April 2009 and one in March of 2012, both with Mrs. Mary Rodwell from Queensland, Australia, who is quite prominently known in the ufology scene. She's right into the star child idiom, and she does presentations around the world. Mary's been very, very helpful to me, and I met Mary through a friend of mine who'd had a face-to-face encounter with a Zeta Grey whilst working out in the forest here near my home in southeastern Victoria of Australia. And anyway, I had been thinking about having a regression for some years, but I hadn't really come across anyone that I felt comfortable with, and through my friend Mick, I started corresponding with Mary, and that was in late 2008. And by the strange thing was that after Mick had related to me his encounter, it suddenly became very urgent for me to explore my own experiences, which I'd been having for many, many years, and I started corresponding with Mary and found myself on a plane with my wife in Melbourne, flying out to Perth. Mary was in Perth at that time. in April 2009, and so we spent the weekend with Mary, and on the Sunday, or on the Saturday, I should say, we had the 4th of April. I had my regression, my first regression, and many things came to the surface during that regression, and it was quite a remarkable experience. I was very impressed by it, and quite shocked in a positive way, I guess. But at the time, I was quite stunned by the things that came up, and it took me probably 12 to 18 months to integrate all that. And I received a lot of validation in the months to follow for the experiences and the things that I saw and felt and heard during that regression. So at one stage during the regression, I think it was kind of after I had been quite shocked by a particular event, and I was just sitting in the chair, and Mary was talking to me, and I had a short listen to that regression last night, and my words were, I'm seeing what it looks like a lizard head. Now, I forgot saying that, but I'm glad I had a quick listen last night. What actually occurred was I was sitting there, and I felt like I was basically staring into space, and I told Mary that I didn't think I was really deep under, and she said, no, you're doing fine, just allow what happens. And quite suddenly I saw this golden orangey eye and this khaki head right in front of me. It was facing to my left, and he had sided right up to me. It was only about 8 inches away from my face, and I was just amazed. I saw this beautiful eye looking at me, and I saw this khaki head, and I knew it straight away. It was like it looked like I didn't have words for it really then, but I remember saying to Mary, I'm seeing this lizard head. And that's the first time I had ever seen anything like that in my conscious memory. So I won't ramble on. I'll move on. About some months later, I tried to draw what I saw, and I did a quite simple drawing of this reptilian being. When he did side up to me, I didn't feel any fear or anything like that. It was just more wonderment, and I didn't, I wasn't frightened or anything like that. I didn't have any previous experience to compare it with, not that I knew consciously. So I just took that in, and I felt, comfortable with it. Didn't expect it. So I tried to draw it in about August of 2009, and I remember seeing in a bookstore, second-hand bookstore, an illustration on the cover of a book that was not a reptilian being, but the colour of the head and the face and the colour of the eyes was very similar. And I took that book and I read it. I can't remember what it was called, but that being actually was supposed to be some kind of a feline being, but this colour of the hide, the pelt, was definitely in line with what I saw, and it was really the first indication of anything to validate what I'd seen, really. And I was dead against joining Facebook right up until suddenly joining in March of 2011, and through joining Facebook, I came to meet people like Eddie Muller and Dave Chace and later on Miesha. And during last year, I had some conversations with Miesha. She was encouraging me to join her Starseed group and talk and share my experiences. I did try to draw again my reptilian experience early last year, but I was never really happy with what I drew. I'm not a real great artist as it is. So anyhow, later last year, I happened to, during the year, I must say this, because Dave Chace had drawn a reptilian being, and I wasn't really taking a lot of notice. I had other issues here with work and so on and so forth, so I was quite sort of taken away and a bit preoccupied with my earthly matters here. And but I remember seeing this being, and I just went, "Oh my God," you know. So I thought, "Oh my God, it almost looked alive to me," and I just thought, gee, that really resonates with me. That it really impacted me, and that was David's drawing of who later turned out to be Iyano. And I didn't know the connections, and I had not spoken with Miesha about this at all, but we just happened to have a spontaneous, Miesha was on one day, and I said, "Hi, how you going, blah, blah, blah." And I just wanted Miesha to know that I really appreciated her love and concern and care and wanting to include me in the group. And something made me say, "I love you." And she said, "What did you say that for?" And I said, "Oh, I don't know. I think I'm just really want you to know that I appreciate what you're doing, and you're such a good person. And here's me hiding under a rock." And I just felt so much respect for Miesha and what the work that she's doing, helping people and so on and so forth. And we started to get into a conversation, and suddenly and then it occurred to me that there was that this drawing that David Chace had done was actually Miesha's Reptilian Contact, and I had no idea. I just didn't make the connections, didn't know, didn't ask, just didn't know. So anyway, we start talking, and Miesha's talking about her experience with Iyano, and she's saying some things, and I'm saying, hang on, I don't, she was saying, like, I don't think he's around, I don't know whether he's still alive. And I said, yeah, he is alive, of course he's alive, and I thought, and I started getting all this stuff, and I'm thinking, where's this coming from? How do I know this? And anyway, to cut a long story short, this conversation that Miesha and I had went on for quite some time, and during the conversation, I found that I was telling Miesha things that I didn't know how I knew them, but I felt so strongly, that I knew what I was saying. And Miesha, we ended up in tears. We ended up bursting out crying. This was, during the meantime, I'm feeling this hand on my left shoulder, and I'm gone, and I'm seeing this being in my mind. I'm seeing this tall guy who was just absolutely beautiful, well-muscled, lithe, very tall. Like, my ceiling here is 7'5", and I think that his cranium would have been into the ceiling, so he would have been over 7.5. And he reminded me of Kenny Norton. He reminded me of that really beautiful, long-muscled build of an African American type of a build. But he was very, very dark, almost not quite black, but it was a dark greeny, browny, muddy, sort of, not muddy as in dirty, but just there was brown and green and very, very dark in there. And I felt, and when he had his hand on my shoulder, I just felt so safe, so honoured, so humbled, and I just felt, people say love, it wasn't like love to me, it was just like familiarity. I just thought, I know this bloke, I know it, bloke is Australian for man. I said, I just felt like I knew him. And it was just an amazing thing to happen, and we were just bawling, which is in Australian means crying. And can
I say something? You practically were channeling things to me that he had said telepathically had said to me many times that you had no way of knowing, yet you were telling me, and you gave me such solace that day because I was so sad because I hadn't seen him physically for so long. I yearned for him, and yet you gave me that wonderful messages. So, and he's done it since then several times. He's kind of, even though I'm not able to connect with Iyano anymore, thank goodness Iyano connects through Robert for me. Please go on, Robert.
Yeah, no, that's right. I mean, it meant it was just amazing. I was just getting these words, and I was telling Miesha, and she's crying, and I was crying because it was just an amazing experience. And quite honestly, I don't think I've ever had that happen before, but I have seen Iyano once in between. I saw him in a dream, and he was about 25 yards away trying to walk towards me, and it felt like there was a storm blowing against him. And I just felt, when I woke up, that was, when we have those dreams that they're so clear and they're so vivid, and you know that you're awake in that place. And, I just honour the bloke. I really do. He is just such a beautiful man and such a loving being. And the other thing too is, when in the last couple of years, when people would say something negative about reptilians, and that's their own experience, I would feel it just didn't feel congruent with me. And look, of all my experiences in the last 15 or so years, I can honestly tell you guys, I have never ever had anything negative happen. Maybe I'm lucky, maybe we're lucky down here in southeastern Australia, we're out of the way underneath the bottom of the earth here, but I have never, it's all been good for me. It's all been good. I must say something else. David Chace must have a connection with these people, because I have been, it's also happened with Miesha, but I'm talking about when I'm speaking with David, which we correspond quite often. I have been speaking with David, and I have seen very close-up images, just like in my hypnotic regression. And I've come to understand how to recognise, when something's coming to me, I see it very clearly, and I've come to trust and respect those images that are presented to me. So what I'm saying is, when I speak with David, I sometimes get, we might be talking about Iyano, or talking about reptilians generally, or snakes or lizards or whatever. Next thing, I will see this face, right, just like it was in the regression. Different colours, I'm sure that Iyano is not the only reptilian being I've seen. And that's about the story, really.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Do we have Carole back? No, we don't. Well, then I'll go ahead and go on. I'd love to open it up at this time for questions from the chat room. And I will also ask questions. So, as the audience can see, we have at least 5 different types of, well, maybe even 6 different or 7 types of different reptilians here that we are talking about. They all have a different appearance, some different color. As David mentioned earlier, they seem to have a certain type of look that is congruent with most races. And I do like to call them races, not species, because I believe it's different races, probably from different planets to different constellations. So I would like to open for any questions from our chat room, and I'm going to ask some questions until I see some show up here. There's questions about children. Now, I have a hybrid reptilian that I've been shown, and the experience was really quite amazing. I was taken into a room. Oh, I think we're trying to get a hold of Carole again.
Have you been on this?
Yes, we are. We are on
you're
right
still
now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I've been off this entire time. So.
Okay, so I'm just asking some questions of everybody because we're through with all the interview, and
okay, great.
Anyway, somebody came up with questions about hybrids, so we're talking about that, and so I'm going to have everybody share a little bit of any kind of hybrid that they may have seen, whether it's reptilian or not. So with mine, I've had several hybrid, but the one I'm talking about is a reptilian one. So I was in the room, and it was kind of out of the shadows, kind of came another another being, another child. He was a little bit taller and stockier than the rest of them, and it's as if they kind of like parted, and he walked up, and I said, "Oh my goodness, who are you?" And they said, "Well, you call him Iyano." And it is Iyano and the all. Now, I would say that all means different genetics so that it all blends together well and healthy. But this little being was a little bit stockier, a little bigger than the others. He had a lighter green, quite a bit greener than Iyano's color, and he had more human eyes. They weren't slanted like Iyano's, and that's really all I can remember. Those are the two things I can remember about him. So I'd like to open it up to anybody else. Like I said, I've had other hybrid experiences, but I'd like to see if anyone else wants to tell us what they may have seen in hybrid or children. Who wants to answer it?
Erica does.
Okay, Erica.
I talked in it was of a third person or whatever. Anyways, I wanted to mention about my hybrid child a little more because I had I've been married for 20 years and I've never had earthly children except for my dogs, which are just the same in my, but I mean, what I have to say is, I had such a, I didn't know the discovery of my hybrid child was what, even kind of fascinates me a little bit because, it's like the female, I was being escorted in the ship and I was staring at the male entity's back, and I realized that's where the smell was. I wanted to mention the smell as well because there's kind of a chemical smell off of my being. And I realized I think that it was either their natural oil glands or maybe what they externally put on their body to keep them moist. I'm not sure, but it had a certain kind of almost a chemical smell that I would never be able to say that I've smelled it on Earth here, but it kind of assaults the nose in a sense, and then you get used to it, so it's not like it's sort of offensive, but anyways, I don't want to go into that. But when I got escorted into the hybrid room, it was so funny because it was so obvious it wasn't. They were trying to make it like a cozy nursery kind of office thing, and it was for some reason I'm a detailed orientated Virgo, and so this really got to me, which I'm just saying is kind of weird to even know the details, but it was so strange because it didn't even look like they did a bad job of it. They didn't do a very good job of making it humanly cozy. It was a very cold, it just wasn't the same. I mean, it was like an obvious job, but and when I saw her levitating some objects on the floor, and she looked so small, like it was an incorrect, where it's wrong. She was like skinny and small, and she shouldn't have been sitting up on her own, but at the same time she was. And I knew that right off the get-go, I saw just like a Caucasian flesh tone. And I didn't know, I just thought it was, I didn't think anything else. And then I realized I was kind of scared because I realized she was levitating and everything was just a bizarre, I knew something was wrong in instincts of mine. And then, I started to basically bond with her, and I started to just like look at her and study her a little, and then I kind of like smelled her, like had a smell like, how babies smell really good, or something, but it was like a smell, and then I started to realize, oh my gosh, she's mine. I mean, it's not a smell like, oh, this is someone's cute baby. No. I started to get, and I'm already reliving it right now with my emotions, but I started to get extremely upset because, oh my God, I'm taking my child and I'm out of here. And don't even, try to stop me. And so, as soon as I got this emotions of, oh, how dare you, I mean, the female blue being just, reptilian, she just came in and got me. She just forcefully got me because, I don't know if they were trying to make me discover, they were testing me. And I started going off and who's the father? And you can hear I just want to say real quick. I do have my live audio, hypnosis. If you want to hear the real-time hypnosis, I cut out all the extra long parts in it. But you can hear, and I'm going off, I'm saying who's the father and stuff. And I felt like I wanted to sort of like, I imagine I wanted to pull a reptilian on the reptilian lady, and I wanted to punch her and, take off running with my child. But of course, they touched my forehead, and, you start thinking like, in a different zone. You start, wait a minute. Now, if you take off with your child, how am I going to know that child can survive in human environment? I mean, that's, there's things that like, you're going on human emotion and you've got to stop. Boom. The fear is, then you got to start getting rational about it. So, I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it sounds like you had a lot of bad things happen to you. So how can you say you have positive contact overall? Well, it's because you got to take a look at the grand scheme of things. It's not just me in the world; it's the entire world. It's the humanity and the whole entire universe with all the beings in it. And that's where we have to stop as human beings. I feel it's important to stop and take a look at the grand scheme of things. And that is where we need to set our sights on. Not, oh, do we have comfortable, cable TV in our house? It's really more not, about that. It's about the collective. And that's what I wanted to mention about that.
That's right. Carole, you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Did anyone else have any other reptilian hybrid story they'd like to share?
I have one.
Okay.
What is the most unusual experience any of you have ever had with a reptilian?
Whoa.
Wow. That's loaded.
I do have one. I mean, it's not exactly the tiniest light on Iyano, but it shows that he's got emotions. But during a experience with a human, my human boyfriend at the time, during a beautiful moment, a sexual moment, all of a sudden an energy, and I looked up on the ceiling and an energy started opening up, and I went, what is going on? And then all of a sudden, my boyfriend was not my boyfriend. It was completely different. It was really quite amazing. But then I realized, oh my gosh, that's not him. And then I realized, no, that's Iyano. And I said, Iyano, that's wrong. You can't do that. You can't do that. And so he immediately left the man's body. And he, telepathically sent a message to me. I'm sorry. I just wanted to feel what it would be like again to be with you. So that's a pretty weird one. And I lost the boyfriend soon after that.
So you're saying that he came to you and tried to make love to you, right?
Through the man I was with.
Oh, through the man you were with. Okay, all right. Well, that's
during that moment, and okay. He came in to the man, and it didn't make the man feel really happy either.
Oh, so he noticed it? He noticed it?
Yes, he knew that there was something different about the whole thing, and I actually invoked him to go away and loudly, and of course the guy said, "What? only, he freaked out. He didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
It was the best I'd I'm sorry. I didn't really want to go there. But that's the weird one. So anybody else?
Any other experiences that they're all weird, but no. But
I have one that's really not weird, but it was fun. I don't think it was as amazing as Miesha's there, but basically at one point he took me outside and he lifted me up over the trees and took me flying, and I was laughing. It tickled. It really tickled, and I told him it did. And he set me down on the ground, and I was in a huge field, and above me all these lights like I was in a football stadium, just peered down on me, and I was looking up thinking, oh, I'm in a football stadium. Now, of course, my frame of reference back then was that it wouldn't be that it was a huge ship or anything, right? And he brought deer to me and told me he was taking the deer because the people in the area were not using the deer properly. They needed to go. And of course I turned to him because I was kind of on the ground at that time petting the deer. And I said, is this like Star Trek? They take whales. And he just looked at me with this kind of what I call the reptilian eye roll, kind of like, oh dear God, there she goes again. And he said, no, not usually. I'm not relating to the whale thing there, Bridget, but anyway, that's what we're doing. And it was wonderful because he let me pet the deer and I could feel the deer's emotions. They're exciting. So it wasn't sexual, but it was interesting.
But did they do it somewhere else? Did you say?
They do? Well, I asked them if they did. I did. I said, y'all take whales too? And I started trying to tell him the whole movie of Star Trek, which I had tried to before in other experiences, and he kind of gave me the telepathic eye roll, like, no more Star Trek, okay, and I'm like, well, they do. So, but I still remember my feet dangling above the trees, and I could see the hammocks, and he sent me into the field, and at the time I thought, how did he get me in a baseball or football stadium? But I imagine later, because I didn't see the sky when I looked up, that possibly it was a ship. That's the only thing that makes sense. So like I said, with the 70% recall, conscious recall is one thing, but then there's that 30% that just kind of, you don't get.
Right. So you would say that was your physical body. You weren't like astral.
Physical. No, I did not have any astral. I didn't know what astral was probably until about 2 or 3 months ago, which Zion and David and even Robbie can testify to that. I had no idea what people were talking about. This was physical. I felt him lift me, and I touched him. So, but it tickled, and I don't know if that was the air bubbles or something. I don't know how he got me over the trees. So, it was physical.
So in the group, who has had what's the closest to our time right now experience that anybody would have? Like how many years ago or how many months ago or whatever? Or is it ongoing or has it stopped for everybody? Or
are you talking physical? Are you talking physical or etherical?
Well, I'm just saying, are these experiences ongoing, throughout today, and will they experience them tomorrow and the next day, or have they stopped, or for everybody? Do you think that, do all of you think that you will still continue having these experiences, or do you think they're in the past?
Well, this is Erica, and I would like to say I'm actually a little disappointed that I have felt a little abandoned in my contact, and I really didn't want to leave the ship. And I was actually quite hurt. But sometimes the timing has to be where the timing is, and you just that's just the way it is. So here I wait for my answers and this and that, but in a sense you just keep to the new mission or the intuition of the mission, and you do the best you can.
So when was the last time that you were
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, when was the last time that anybody had an experience, like the closest last time that someone would have an experience, within the last year or several years? Could somebody answer that one?
Physical or astral?
Any experiences.
Robert here. It's an ongoing thing, Carole.
Mm-hmm.
Just.
Oh, it is an ongoing. Okay.
And you remember more as you go along. So I would say my last experience was Iyano walking towards me, trying to reach me. That's what I perceived it as. He did his best to try and reach me, and I'm beckoning him to be able to reach me in person. I suppose I'll have to get off the sweets or something like that and raise my vibration, but I expect it. I've had many different experiences with different beings over the years, and I now remember way back to when I was a little boy. In fact, one of my earliest experiences, now that I can see it for what it was I had a repetitive dream, very, very clear, vivid dream of being on a craft with a small being when I was probably 8 years old, maybe even earlier, and we were flying over a built-up area, and it was cool. We were up against the screen, and here's me at 8 years of age, and I didn't have any frame of reference, so here's this guy, and he's smaller than me, and he's an adult.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
I had that dream right up until into my 20s.
Wow. Well, it looks like it's very close to 3 o'clock. Is there anything that anyone would like to say? Maybe Miesha, just to
you can
end.
Go overtime for as long as you want.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
okay.
Really? Oh. All right, thank you. I see that there's a question in the chat room that someone asked. They said, so did you find less contact after menopause? And, of course, my answer to them was yes. It changed into more etherical. I have a constant connection with Iyano. I feel like, at any time I can talk to him. And, in fact, I've had many psychics see him next to me, so I know he's never left me. However, the physical is gone, and I do feel abandoned, just like Erica said. Anybody else like to answer that?
This is Erica. I'd like to mention I'm not quite in the menopause, but then again, I'm not sure. See, and I want to mention this part is because I have had reproductive sort of sterilization since I was younger, and I've always had very strange, hormonal situations with, menstruation and stuff. And I have been told that I have scarring inside, and as though it could mimic a labor of some, what I'm saying. So I'm not trying to be like gory, and I'm not trying to be definitive, like, okay, this is because I had a belly full of reptilians. I mean, honestly, I don't know, but I know that I've never had the children, but I think that it seems to be kind of a common thing with the women sometimes. Now, I'm not saying the panel here, but sometimes I have heard the women say that they do have a menstrual cycle / menstruation issues. And I don't know, and then maybe that just comes along with having hybrid children.
Yes.
And it's funny that I have to also just say real quick before I get off, is that it's funny because Robert is the only other person that there's only a couple other, it's very rare that men have less, shall I say, reptilian encounters than women that I know about. Now, I could be wrong. It just seems like it's a lot of the women, and maybe it's hybrids again that they want from us. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. We have one other question. Go ahead, Robert.
No, I was just going to say, I'm listening to the girls talk, and I just think it's wonderful, the attachment that they have, that bond and that love, that they have. I almost feel like I must be a reptilian being myself sometimes, and I often wonder why I don't have any recall of being up on the craft in any particular. I do. I have glimpses of it in my dreams and so on and so forth, but I I haven't had, that I recall, I haven't had, like I'm on the craft and I'm seeing grey beings and blah, blah, blah. I don't have that. And I have this little thought that perhaps I'm up there working, I do. I know it sounds nutty and crazy, but I have this feeling that, I often feel offended and take it personally when people say these scary, terrifying stories about ETs and stuff, and I go, God, so I'm just so glad that I heard the girls, the ladies talking about their attachments, because, like feeling abandoned and so on and so forth, I can feel it. It resonates with me, not that I feel abandoned, but I can understand it from that absolute love. When a woman loves a man so deeply, I mean, it's just a wonderful thing. And I don't feel abandoned at all. I'm just looking forward to the next. I mean, just from a man's point of view, I appreciate the contact that I've had, and I expect it to continue.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that I don't know of any contact with aliens other than I've had contact with white light beings and other beings, but I do feel abandoned sometimes in that I'm on this planet by myself, and I'm not that happy with it. I'm happy, but I feel unfulfilled in many ways because I feel like I'm missing where I'm from. So I don't know, does anybody else feel like they're missing from where they are?
Everyone on this panel, Carole, knows exactly how you feel.
Okay, all right.
In fact, they told me back in 2006, I'd had enough. This is before internet and Facebook and meeting these beautiful people. I had enough, and I was standing out the back here one night, and I just said, look, I've had enough of this. I just want to go home. I've had it.
Yeah.
And I heard this voice saying, no, you have work to do. You have another, it's basically like you have another life, another complete life. You must stay. Oh. You agreed to stay, get healthy. Right. I stopped drinking beer. I started getting very healthy. Started eating properly. I stopped eating red meat, just instinctively. And those voices that were nagging in my head to stop this and stop that, they stopped when I stopped. So, when people talk about a mission or that they really miss home and they want to go, I've been through all that. Yeah. I've been through all it.
Right. So when you were told that you haven't had another life to complete or whatever, they're talking about the life that you're in right now, right?
Yes. And the work that we have to do and that we are doing now. Yeah. I mean, this is 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I must say something else for everybody that I have read or heard or something that really resonated with me is that just being here, I think maybe Dolores or someone wrote it in one of her books, that us star people just being here and acknowledging our truth and sending out that love and that intention, that is helping. And we're also connected with, we have an intrinsic connection with Gaia, the earth. She is a being too.
Oh, I totally believe that. Yeah, she is a being, and I feel that I feel very connected to her, and I feel like I'm actually here for her almost more so than the people, although, I do try to help the people, but I feel more love for Gaia and her plants and animals. It's easier for me to love that part of this whole situation than even the people, although the people are great too, but,
Yeah, I understand what you mean, because it's all getting very polluted and dirty, isn't it? And we're not helping, we're not helping Gaia. She's hurting.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
so
we're here to heal.
Anyone else have an answer to that?
Pardon me?
Did anyone else want to answer that question that you posed about feeling like you don't want to be here? Anybody else on the panel?
I know Mia feels that way. I mean, Miesha.
I felt like that for years, but I don't anymore. I'm looking forward to, and I'm enjoying the mission.
Yes. I'd like to hear from somebody else. Anybody else want to tell us what their feeling is?
This is David Chace. I'd like to say about that it's not that I don't want to be here, it's that it's that there is this sense of mission. I want to change things here. I think with regards to the UFO phenomenon and reptilian experiences and alien abduction experiences generally, we need to create a society that is more supportive of people sharing about these experiences. And I know there are people who are really concerned, well, we want to get all the facts right and stuff, but my attitude about that is that in time, several decades from now, whatever the science of the future will have all those answers. So at this point in history, it's more important than just let people share and give them the support they need. So my feeling is that this is a great planet and it has a lot of potential, and there are people who have negative experiences and positive experiences, and they all deserve to be listened to. And if we keep talking about our experiences, we can create a more supportive environment for this kind of knowledge to come forward, because there is a lot of, there's technology, there's knowledge about the psychic dimensions of reality, there's a lot of stuff that human civilization could really use, and we might be able to help Gaia through all that, through finding better ways of producing energy and so forth.
Exactly. Very good. I totally agree with you. And there was a gentleman, his name is Nolan Thomas Benedict, I think, and he died of a brain tumor, and he was dead for like over an hour and a half, but he went to the other side and went into the light and asked the light several questions, and he had always thought that people were terrible because they were like a cancer on the earth and they were ruining the earth and what have you, but the light told him that we are definitely going to be healing the planet. The planet is going to come back beautifully, and everything is free choice here, free will, but that we will be regenerating and bringing this planet back to where it was. So that's one aspect. And then there's those people that think that we'll be shifting off this dimension onto a new Earth, and there's other people that have other ideas. But anyway, that's what he got from the light. So I thought that was a nice, positive attitude to, help me be more receptive to, feeling the love and sending the love back out to everybody. So what do you have to say about that? You there?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Oh, I just said, so have you come to a feeling where you feel that the future is a lot more positive now that things are opening up and we're all able to speak about these things? Do you have more?
Oh, absolutely. Back in 1995-6, when I started talking about my reptilian experience, people just weren't ready. I was talking about star seeds, and people just weren't ready to hear this kind of thing. And I had Washington Post come in and sit in on my support group, and then write a seething, horrible article about everything, So people weren't ready. And in fact, when I was scared away from this whole thing by a series of attempts on my life and threats and things like that, one of the things that this military guy who came to me and to scare me off said, the people aren't ready to hear this. So you need to shut up. The people aren't ready to hear it. But you know what? The people are ready to hear it now. I know they are. And many more people are awakening every day. And a lot of people are waking up to their own reptilian experiences. And, we do have a gland in our head that is the reptilian gland. David, what's it called? The reptilian brain.
Reptilian brain. It's a portion of the brain. It's not a gland, technically, but it is part of the brain.
Yeah, it's the reptilian brain.
That's right, the reptilian brain. And so, people are starting to wake up to, we are all hybrids on this planet. All different types.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. It's Erica. It's okay?
Go for it.
The human element is like the cancer. It is like it seems like when there's a lot of horrible, quote-unquote, abduction scenarios that go down or experiences, I'm going to say a lot of it seems like there's a human element involved in there. And, look at the way we treat, not saying us, but the ones that are just still, selfish and ego and all that thing. We're treating each other bad. And, there's so much to be learned from the other more intelligent beings. There's a reason that they haven't, totally done away with our humans, because we must be family. We must have a purpose, a greater purpose. It's not like, why else, or just get rid of us? Honestly, I'm embarrassed for the human race a lot, when you see all the bad stuff that happens.
Right.
I'd like to add to that, if that's okay.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I think one of the things, we deal here on Earth with so much racism just among human beings. We have so many dichotomies, problems, issues, and then we, start getting into the alien phenomenon, started getting serious, getting researchers, and then we start getting all of this racism about, these beings are good, and these beings are bad. And that, like I said, had mentioned before, that kind of keeps us in this proverbial closet of not being able to share the fact that there are wonderful, loving, positive reptilians, just there are wonderful, loving humans and wonderful, loving greys and many, many, many species out there, probably trying to help us. As Erica said, we haven't been hurt, we haven't been harmed, we're still here. So I think us just getting the message out there may bring other people forward to say, hey, I saw this being and it was positive and it's not negative, and we can squelch that message so that other people can come out and start to speak. And I believe that's a lot of our mission, and, just to get it out there. So that's what we're here doing today, and I think it's just been fabulous.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bridget. My being told me that, like a mother to a child, and of course, as, anyone that has children, and I don't really have children, but I have, my animals, and I have the hybrid. We won't go into specifics, but my point being, when your child wants to have a candy bar before dinner and you say no, well, that your child is not going to be loving you very much. They're going to be thinking you're, basically evil. Why can't you just let me have that candy bar? What's the difference? And it's really because you're doing it for their own good. There's a method to the madness, and that's what's going on, where it might be a little growing pains at first, in this, but we're discovering that it's, there is a greater deal good to be had if we just get out of our comfort zone, is what it is.
Right, and as Miesha's always talked about, Miesha's one wonderful person and resource to say the fear is false reality appearing real. And I'll never forget when she first said that, and that always stays with me. And I think the more people get on the internet and they read books by certain people and these lectures and shapeshifters and demons and, they're in the bottom of the earth and that's where hell is. Well, in our Judeo-Christian society and the way that we think and the way that we feel about things, that's kind of what we over here in this part of the world tend to think, or what people tend to think. So if we get that message out there that, let's do a little yin-yang here and understand that in the frame of reference of the entire world, other cultures see reptilians or reptiles, dragons, and snakes as bringers of wisdom. And they need to kind of get out of that comfort zone and realize there's a whole big world out there, India and Asia and the whole continent, that thinks that any kind of reptilian or reptile experience is good fortune. So people just kind of need to open up a little bit and get out of their comfort zone, as Erica was saying. At least I hope they do.
So what would you say was, for whoever on the panel, was the most interesting concept or message that you might have received from the reptilian people that you contacted or that contacted you? Any messages?
Unconditional love. Love, acceptance, understanding, although they are task-oriented and they have their own task that they're doing, that they do care and they are interested in what we're doing. And also, too, a lot of us have had the message about the mission. And maybe we're still unclear about what that mission is, but I think we're beginning it today.
Right. I got messages from, although I don't think I am a Pleiadian, but I do work with the Pleiadians, and I have gotten the message that they thank us and revere us so much for being here, doing what we're doing, because it's very difficult to come down into the third, dimension if you're from a higher frequency, and that we're very brave to do that, and that they, again, just really thank us so much for being here to aid in the transformation of planet Earth at this time. So that's what I got from the people that I work with. So anybody have anything else they would like to interject into this conversation before we leave that we didn't get to speak about? Any of the guys want to say anything?
Can I add something?
Oh, please, Diane.
I want to tell everyone who's listening, don't let the appearance of an ET fool you. Just because they look intimidating doesn't mean they want to harm you or eat you or sacrifice you. And it also, just because an ET looks angelic doesn't mean that they won't harm you. People, human beings, are very judgmental in the appearance of an ET or something that's not from this world. They tend to judge those who are frightening, like the reptilians, and they quickly go into fear mode and claim that they want to kill us. If they wanted to do so, they would have done it long time ago, wouldn't they? But at the same time, I believe that people judge a whole species just because they're tall, muscular, very different from a human appearance, and that's just not the case. Don't judge a tree just because of a few bad apples. Just because they're different in appearance doesn't mean that they are evil or anything. Because many of those reptilians come in love, and many of the ET ones that are more angelic looking also have a hidden agenda, at least in my opinion. So please just use your intuition, follow your heart, don't let someone, an ET's appearance just, fool you, because that's just not the case. It happened to me several times. Where I would be approached by intimidating ETs, and then they would just speak to me about love. Just love the human race, what I'm told. Love and be open to everyone. Don't judge anyone. We're all the same. No one is better or worse than anyone. At the end, we are all equal. We are all one. What's the point in judging or criticizing? That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Excellent.
And that's why these try to get people to think about meditation, because the more you meditate, the more apt you are to be able to pick up on intuitiveness and feelings of goodness and badness from people and other beings and what have you. You have more of a sense of knowing, beyond the five senses. So, to those people that don't feel they might be able to pick up on something like that, start meditating, you'll become the human that we're meant to be, with more than just five senses. But you'll be developing your sixth sense, your sense of knowing beyond what this dimension is all about, which is time. Time is of the essence, and time is just on the earth. And once you get away from all this, then you have more knowledge and understanding of cosmic intelligence and cosmic consciousness. So that's what I would like to add. And Miesha, do you have anything else to add before we say goodbye?
Well, yes, I would like to invite people to come to the support group. I have 2 support groups on the internet, and it is currently on Uvu. If you go to my Facebook site, which is facebook.com/groups/Starseed Awakening, you can join. It is a private group, so please be a starseed and experiencer, and we do check it out. Also, from that, we have the events, which we have the weekly meetings, 2 of them. One on Sunday at between 2:30 and sometimes it starts at 3:30, and it goes for 3 hours. And then on Wednesday at 4:30, and it goes for 3 hours. And that website is the same thing, except after Starseed Awakening, you'd go /events/. So I also would like to give you just my my email one more time, and if everybody can give their email one more time, website one more time, and then we have it all. Anybody wants to contact us through those websites. Erica, why don't you give us your website one more time, then I'll give them mine.
Sure, thanks. Well, thank you for having me on again, and my all of my contact info, as well as my details, live hypnosis, and the whole 9 yards is at ericagetch.com. That's ERICA, Erica, and then Getch is GOETSCH.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to mention that Miesha's groups are in Las Vegas, in case there are people from elsewhere.
Oh, yes. That's right. I do also have 2 groups a month at my home, support groups. And we are going to be having in Las Vegas at the Green Valley Library our second and hopefully annual art exhibit of all types of ET encounters, everyone's experiences, and I usually have a tour that I do as well a few times through that month that these are going to be exhibited, and come in and look at all of the artwork from all of the people that experiences. My website is SRAMIESHA99.blog.com. And Erica, you want to give your positive reptilian one?
Sure, I had my microphone muted so I wouldn't. Yeah, that is, well, I wonder if there's a specific, I have to get the exact number. I know, it's funny because isn't it funny how, like, Facebook will have the pages, but then they give all that long number afterwards.
I know.
It's sort of like, yeah, oops, I got the wrong one. It really makes it harder than heck. Okay, facebook.com/pages/positive-reptilian-contact. I think if you look that up in the search thing, it probably, that alone will come up, but I can give you the specifics on it. It's a long number, but we'll just do it anyways. 4409 4765 92 96 675, and but like I said, if you go to facebook.com/EricaGetch, you can find it off of there, or to find Miesha on Facebook, and we can give you the link if you want to message us. That's just as easy. So
that's right. That has all the pictures that you of the beings that we've been talking about today, and many more. And you can give your comments. We'd love to hear your comments on the show, because we plan on doing some more of these panels.
Can I just say something before David gives his address? Thanks, Dave. Look, I would just like the listeners to know one thing, that I feel this very, very deeply, and I hope that the rest of the panel concur with this, that these beings they look, like Zion said before, they may look big and powerful, and they are big and powerful, but we have to remember that they have feelings and they care about us deeply. And I would bet that they would lay their life down for us to help us.
Yes.
And it hurts them that we are scared of them.
Oh, good idea.
Yes, that's absolutely right. It does. In fact, some people have had tests where, you know, like Lindsay with the fact she wasn't scared of her reptilian going to bite her. He was just kind of testing her to show her, you know what? I'm not harmful. I love you. So that's exactly right.
I wanted to... Go ahead.
Go ahead,
Carole. So I wanted to... I'm sorry. Speak, Carole. Say what you have to say.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that I think that it seemed like it kind of hurt his feelings after she was afraid, when she said, oh, go ahead and bite me. Because then after that he said, well, go.
Lindsay, what do you think? Do you think you might have hurt his feelings at first and that's why he said, well, I'm done, go?
Honestly, it felt more like a test, like, if I was ready to, I think he was testing me to see if I was ready to remember. Because I do feel like this was the beginning. Well, not the beginning of my experience. I've had a lot of them, but this is my realization that there's this whole bigger picture out there than I had ever thought there was before.
Okay, so who was speaking?
David.
Yeah, all right.
That was Lindsay, but David.
Go ahead.
That was Lindsay just now. I wanted to share a couple of websites.
Please.
My friend Edward Muller, who's a journalist who's worked with Jaime Maussan in Mexico on UFO investigations, he created a website called ProjectUFOSkywatch.com. If you go to Project UFO Skywatch, there's a gallery. In the gallery, there's several albums of artwork by several different artists. There's one album that's just for reptilians, and it features arts by Lindsay. It's got art by myself, by Kasara, and several other artists. Another website is my online sketchbook. My username at conceptart.org is Dahami, which is Dahami. And my sketchbook there is called Dahami's Reptoids and Aliens. So you could probably just search it there, or go into the sketchbooks forums at conceptart.org. And otherwise, anyone is free to follow me on Facebook. My Facebook is facebook.com/David W. Chace. And remember, Chace is CHACE. And that's what I had to share. Thank you.
David, did you want to say with the one last thing about your book?
Yes. Well, I am engaged in research. Mostly, there's various perspectives people have taken on reptilians. A lot of people have looked at it from a historical or religious perspective, or kind of looking for evidence in ancient literature and so forth. My perspective is more about what is the biology of them, what are their capabilities, what are their reasons for interacting with humans, and especially what do they look like, because I'm an illustrator. So I am researching a book and it's going to be all about reptilians, and it's just going to be a very well illustrated book on the reptilians, and I don't have a firm deadline as far as when it's going to be available, but that's my ongoing project, and that's part of my mission to get that done.
Awesome. I love it. So anyway, I want to thank all of you so much for joining this panel, and it's been fascinating, even though I had a few problems staying on. But maybe, hopefully, we can do something like this again in the future. And Miesha, thank you so much for bringing all these people on. I know that you're the reason why they're all together here. And thank you.
It was my pleasure. It was a fun. It was a group effort, and we're very, very happy that you had us on the show.
Thank you, David. And just want to sign out and say have a wonderful day and a wonderful week, everybody, and let's send out the love and make this planet a beautiful place. Bye.
You're listening to Wolf Spirit Radio.
This is Dave from the Wolf's Den Studio saying welcome to Wolf Spirit Radio. Wolf Spirit Radio is totally listener supported by folks like you who choose to help us stay on the air and grow.